This is the rebel mindset, is the rebel mindset, is the rebel mindset, is the rebel mindset.
All right, everybody. Chris Falcon here with the rebel mindset. I'm just going to jump right into it real quick here. All of us have goals. You have goals. I have goals. All of us have dreams. I have dreams. You have dreams. We got things that we want to do, things that we want to accomplish. I want to be successful. I want to have money. I want to have my time in the sun. Everybody wants these things. But one thing that we sometimes don't really question, one thing that we don't sometimes pay a lot of attention to is who we are as individuals, who we are as people, just making our way through life while we decide all the things that we want. Do we ever really pay a lot of attention to who this person is inside that wants all of these things? I'm talking to a man today who spent a fair amount of time, answering some of these questions, or at least dealing with these questions. He is not here with me in the pod. We are here via Skype, but I've got best-selling author Howard Falco here with me today. Author, spiritual teacher, mental and peak performance coach. Howard, how are you?
I'm great. It's great to be here with you.
You know what?
Thanks for having me.
And thank you for being here and making the time. I mean, I think that before we get into anything, we got to talk about, the most important thing, which is the fact that our last names are one letter off.
Absolutely. Great minds think alike, right? We're synced up in that area. It's very close.
We are synced up, and I love that. And people are kind of laughing. They're like, Falcon and Falco. It almost sounds like a show or something. So this might have to be something that, right?
Yeah, you never know, right?
Right, but
I've been called Falcon my whole life, so.
Yeah. Oh, really? So
yeah.
We have a lot of things in common. So our names, one letter off. But honestly, if we did do that show, I would let it be Falco and Falcon because I think that you deserve to come first. So as we talk, and we talked a little bit before about the rebel mindset. Everybody's got goals. Everyone's got things they want to do. But there's this I want to achieve this. I want to do that. But sometimes we don't spend enough time addressing the subject in this whole I concept, and who this person is in this equation that wants to get these things done. You've had an incredible journey. You've done so much stuff with your life, not only in business and professionally, but now with this whole new world of spiritual coaching and helping people. How did you even get into this whole realm of questioning who we are? And I know you had that journey, your own personal journey, but tell us a little bit about that story.
Yeah, it's a really interesting story. Curiosity was just natural to me, as it is to a lot of young people. I was always curious and always questioning. I always questioned my teachers in school. I was the one raising my hand 50 times and questioning the teacher, whether it was in grammar school or junior high or high school. And at times it annoyed them, but I had a mind that always wanted to understand and figure things out. My dad was amazing with his ability to take things apart and put them back together. He used to build transistor radios. He could take the car apart and put it back together. He could build, do construction. And he did this all without instructions. He did it by memory. And I think he had that mind that liked to analyze, take things apart, and put them back together. And so for me, I took that into life. I wanted to understand it from a perspective of life. What was fascinating was a big triggering moment for me, Chris, was when I was 14 years old. I've told this story many, many times, but it's an important one. I was taken on a camping trip. I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, and just outside Chicago. And I had never been far away from there. And I was taken on a camping trip up to northern Minnesota. We were near the Canadian border. It was a very rustic cabin on a beautiful lake. My uncle and aunt took me and my cousin. And it was a 10-hour ride from Chicago. We got there, parked. It was dark out, put our luggage away. Everybody wanted to go to sleep. I wanted to go check out the surroundings.
Right.
I walked out the door of the cabin, went to the end of the dock at the lake, and just peered into this amazing, beautiful scene of this darkness. And what hit me was the sound of silence. I'd never heard that growing up in Chicago.
Right.
Excuse the oxymoron, but I'd never heard it. And it caught me by surprise, and I was stunned at this experience I was having. And then as I looked out into this completely placid lake, there wasn't a breath of wind. I started to see what looked like light shining up from one section of the lake. all over the lake. And then I looked and they were in another section. And then they were in another section. The lake was covered with these lights. And for a split second, Chris, I did not know what was going on. And then I looked up. And when I looked up and I saw the amount of stars that I saw in the sky, literally my breath was taken away. I was rocked to my core in such an awestruck moment that thousands of questions filled my mind about the nature of existence and life. I looked up and I said, holy cow, how in the world is that even possible? What or how did that get there? And it set me on this path of questioning for the rest of my life. And the questions continued to intensify as I got older. I had this idea of what happiness was. You know, you get it from movies or pop culture or whatever.
Sure.
Fall in love, you get married, you get a good job, you have 2.2 kids, a white picket fence, you do all the things you think you're supposed to do. You make a lot of money. And yet, as I was doing these things, because I set out to do it, I wanted to get that state of peace. Every time I accumulated something, which was great, no complaints about it, but it didn't satisfy that inner sense of peace.
Right.
And so the yearning for answers got greater as I added things to the list. Matter of fact, as I added things to the list, I was getting more concerned, not less concerned.
Wow.
And what happened was the tipping point of it all was I thought the last thing was millions of dollars because that's what pop culture
what
tends
everyone's
to
supposed to want.
Right, exactly. And when I realized one day in my house, my wife was making dinner, our kids were 2 and 4, and they were playing in the family room, I realized, holy cow, money's got nothing to do with happiness. It's got nothing to do with it. Not that it can't make things convenient and take stress off and all that, but real, true happiness comes from our experience. It comes from things that are free, like the ability to breathe air and see nature and connect with human beings.
Of course.
That's where happiness comes
Of course.
from.
I mean, we've heard these things before. I mean, the best things in life are free. But I mean, let's dig into this for a minute a little bit more, because I know that some people are going to listen to what we're saying here and they're going to say, okay, this is somebody that's always been inquisitive. His father was inquisitive. I have no interest in this hokey pokey stuff of the stars and what's above me and what's below me. Money is what drives my world. I'm way more into what I can touch and what I can feel. Is this whole idea of questioning who we really are, is this realm reserved for a certain type of person? Or are these concepts that are universal, that all of us can grapple with in some way, shape, or form? Basically, are you special or are you like the rest of us?
That's a great question. And I think one of the most exciting things out of this revelation and out of this questioning that hit this crescendo where all this insight came to me, massive, incredible shift in awareness came to me, told me that me with no background in study in spirituality, no background in study in religion, I didn't go sit with some guru in India, I didn't meditate, I had no idea of spirituality. All I had was a deep yearning for answers. And if you have a deep yearning, the universe by design is going to try and funnel that awareness to you. The gatekeeper on it is your readiness.
Oh, I love
that. If you are not ready on some level, if there's a fear or a belief that you do not want to give up, you will block that information. You will have the blinders on and you will not see what's coming at you.
Right. So
because it's coming at you 24/7.
Totally. And you were, and I love what you said there a second ago. I mean, you were asking these questions in a way, and if anything, ready for these answers. You wanted it to come. I was talking to one of my clients just the other day, and we were talking about this whole idea of being, who we really are. And the second you talk about that stuff with this person, she rolls her eyes and she's like, oh, I'm not into this whole world. But I love that you say, the gatekeeper of being open, of being ready for this there is a right time to take in this information and have these experiences, these radical transformations of thought. I mean, you were at a specific point in your life when this came to you. Maybe some people just aren't ready, but that time will come at some point.
That's exactly right. And this moment and this conversation hitting your ears right now is a piece of what's greasing the wheel towards it. That's the real time, law of attraction, whatever you want to call it. That's the universe working real time right in this very moment. And it's really beautiful when you stand back and look at it like a witness and you go, wow, This isn't some random coincidence that I'm listening to this podcast right now. And I'm not saying because it's me on this podcast, it could be anybody. But the point is, information's flowing to you to help you understand that there's more to know. And if you open up and you raise your level of trust and faith, you're not afraid to question some of your long-held beliefs, that there will be room for awareness to come in. One of the ways that I explained it in the book is the universe abhors a vacuum and immediately seeks to fill it. When you say, I don't know, or I want to know, and I'm open to receiving, you're creating space. And it's creating a vacuum where the universe then can bring you universal inspiration to help you as it relates to directly to those questions being answered in some way.
Now, can I ask you this question? And I don't know, a ton about your religious background, but I mean, does someone that holds on firmly to religion, okay, this religion provides all the answers for them, does that in some way, shape, or form impact the vacuum that you are talking about? Because maybe at this point, I am no longer open to taking in enlightenment or anything new, because guess what? This book that I have in my hand has all the answers for me, and I've read it from cover to cover already.
Well, again, there has to be a will and an intention to answer a question. If you have no questions, if you feel the book's answered all your questions, then there's no reason for the universe to give you anything. If it's working for you, you're fine. But if the answers that you've been given, or you've been told, or you've learned are not working for you, then it does take someone with an open mind and a progressive nature related to religion to open it up and maybe take a look at some parables in a different way. Maybe take a look at a more expanded, less literal view of what was being taught and back 2,000 years ago, or whenever the book that you aspire to was written 5,000 years ago, whatever. A more progressive way of looking at it. If your mind is closed, the universe can't get any information in.
So I mean, if you're dissatisfied, the universe has something for you. Okay, and if you're dissatisfied, if you're satisfied with what you have going on, maybe there's no need to open another book.
No, there's no urgency if you're satisfied. But on someone like myself who was on a quest for insight, who looked around the world and couldn't reconcile, while some people, lived in utter poverty and other people lived in riches, or some people dealt with war all the time, or pain and suffering, or lost loved ones, or, and other people had smooth, incredible lives where they seemed to flow through everything and create. I wanted to understand what that difference was and why it occurred. Right. That was my quest. And that's why I wrote these books.
Talking about,
share that.
And I'm so glad that you did, talking about, satisfaction, being dissatisfied, you talk about something which is kind of like, this perfection of oneself, and this was something that you kind of, I don't want to say if maybe it was a realization, but just, you had this experience in that maybe there was nothing outside of yourself that you necessarily need to chase down, whether it be money, houses, cars, whatever it is, but really all the perfect questions and answers were all kind of inside you maybe this entire time. Is there validity to that, to that very thing? That, I mean, are all the answers kind of within us, and it's our own willingness to kind of accept our perfection, this perfect moment that allows the whole thing to kind of unfold?
Okay, so that's another fantastic question, Chris. There's two answers, because there's really two questions there. To the second point is, yes, the answers are all here, within or on the outside, either way. But the point is, you don't need to do anything but be more present and aware to watch how information makes its way into your awareness. This can happen through a conversation like this on a podcast. It can happen through the many books that are out there. It can happen through a TV show. It can happen through a line in a song. It can happen through a line in a movie. It can happen through a conversation with a stranger at the grocery store. Right. But if you're present, you will start to see how the universe is incredibly connected to you. So yes, the answers are here when you're ready for them. It's a self-fulfilling universe whose point is to help us expand our awareness for the purpose of whatever our intended creativity is. It's matching us with our creativity to help support us on that journey of unfolding creativity.
I love it.
That's the first thing. Now, can I?
No, please. No, okay. Keep going.
So the second piece was this idea of perfection, which I just want to clarify. I had grown up my whole life thinking that I wasn't good enough for anything. and always had to do more to get the approval of the outside world, whether that was my parents, whether that was my girlfriend, whether that was friends of mine, whether that was my siblings, whatever. I needed constant adulation that, hey, you're okay, you're good, and it was never enough. So that's where this accumulation phase came in, until the day I realized that I already was, in this moment, the perfection that I was searching for. I already was complete in this moment. Not that I didn't want to get better in the next moment. Not that I didn't want to aspire to create more and do more things and have more experiences, which is the human experience. But I took the burden of bricks off my back with this idea of I should have done this and I could have done this and I would have done this and I'm not good enough for this and I'm not whatever, tall enough, big enough, strong enough, fast enough, smart enough. And I let it all go. And I said, I'm perfect for who I am right now with all the accumulated knowledge I've had my entire life. Not that I'm better than anybody else.
Right. No, it has nothing to do with anybody else. It's you.
I'm cool. I feel good.
Right,
and as
right.
I started to feel good, the world started to honor that feeling with goodness.
God, Howard, there are so many people out there that just live their life in that hole. You know what I mean? Like, okay, I am incomplete because something is missing. I am the least perfect version of myself because one element of my life isn't necessarily where I would like it to be. I was actually training, I'm a personal trainer, I was training a client this morning, and I told her that I wanted her to do a certain activity for 2 minutes, okay? 2 minutes. And this is already at a point in the workout where she is just like maxed out. This is towards the end of it, but this is your last moment of confrontation here, okay? I want you to do this for 2 minutes. And already, before she even starts, she's like, I can't. And so, of course, I'm like, you can. I'm really giving it to her. So she starts doing it. And she was so blown away with the expectation that she had of herself to be able to do this 2 minutes without stopping. She was so blown away, and I can't, and it's too much, and I won't be able to do it, and blah, 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 that she told herself, I'm going to stop at 1 minute, rest for a little bit, and then finish the other minute. And then after we were done, I asked her, and she's like, I'm upset with myself. I said, well, why are you upset? And she goes, well, because I didn't do the 2 minutes. I go, the 2 minutes is irrelevant. I go, let me ask you a question. Could you have done 1 minute and 10 seconds? She goes, oh, yeah, with no problem. I go, could you have done 1 minute and 20? She goes, I'd bet anything on it. I go, could you have done 1 minute and 30? She goes, absolutely. Her expectation and the thought, the weight of this 2 minutes prevented her from actually maximizing her potential. She didn't even attempt to do her best because of the weight of something out there that doesn't even really exist.
Yep. That's how so many people live their lives, in a state of limitation. And that limitation comes from, as you mentioned in the first part, a misunderstanding of self, a limited idea on who you are. There are no greater poison to the mind than this idea of not good enough, or shame, or guilt, or regret, which poisons the soul and puts a limit on what's possible, that works subconsciously where we don't even know, until someone can point out that they see more in you than you see in yourself. And that's when the door can start to open, and just like you did with her, and you can start to experience more of what's possible. I have a quote that I offer to people. It's in the second book, that I offer to people when I speak. And the quote is simply this: if you knew how powerful you really are, you would never stop smiling.
Should I start smiling right now? No, I love that quote. That's an amazing quote. But it's true though. It's true. When we talk about potential and maximizing potential, if we all only knew what we were really capable of doing, I think we would be in awe.
Absolutely. And that's my intention, is to continue to share that possibility with people, to help them come more into the true nature of who they are.
Now here's a question I have for you. Because in many ways, I'm tatted up. I got tattoos, and there's this one tattoo on my left forearm, that pretty much sums up a lot of. I tell people of who I am. If you want to know who I am, I kind of wear it all on my sleeve. So you can check it out, and people actually go and they'll look at it, and I'll just start talking. We can just start a conversation based on all the different pictures and imagery that I have on my forearm. But all of these things are basically just based on experiences, okay? These are just little tokens that represent experiences that I've had in my life. when it comes to this idea of who we really are we not just the sum of the experiences that we've had in life, or are we something greater than that? And if we are, do we need to be aware that we're something greater, or is simply staying there, status quo, on the surface? I am this person that did 4 years at Arizona. I am this person that is the husband to so-and-so. Is that enough?
Did you go to Arizona, by the way?
No, I didn't. No,
okay. Okay. So there's two questions there. First of all, are we the sum of our experiences? To this moment in time, yes, you are the sum total of your genetics, your nurturing, your upbringing, and your personal experiences. And that gives you the identity of who you are. And you have lived out that identity because what moves our energy, what our ego is moved by, is the need to validate what we believe is true about ourselves, positively or negatively.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's number one. Now, the second question is, do we need to be more? If you are at peace, there's no need to do anything. Nothing. If you want to create, or you desire a different experience, or you're in some form of suffering in some way of mind, then the exploration of maybe a grander version of who you are versus the limited idea that you may have been thinking in your mind over time and not even have known it is the pathway to freedom and liberation. To experience, hey, I've thought I was no good because when I was 14, this girl or this guy said this to me, and my dad always said this to me and told me I was no good, or my mom said this to me, and I've always felt that was true. Maybe that's no longer true. Maybe I can see that I can be free of that thought and see more of the beauty and perfection of who I am. Another quote or saying that I often tell people is, any thought that creates limitation or suffering of mind is a lie about who you are.
Wow. Wow, that's one you got to sit there and think about for a minute. I mean, if it puts constraints on you, if it limits your capacity, it's a lie. It's
creates suffering in any way.
Wow. I mean, if you really think about it, and obviously you have, but I mean, I'm letting it resonate with me right now. I mean, just in what I do alone, my profession, as a personal trainer, I mean, I am literally navigating through a bunch of lies with people all day long based on what you just said. And I love it. I'm going to go back and listen to this podcast just to make sure that I really have that one down. But I mean, that's awesome. That's incredibly powerful. That concept alone right there, this whole podcast, the reason why I do it is to help people maximize their potential. But how many lies do we have that are just basically just having us suffer unnecessarily, holding on, attaching to these lies?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's amazing. I heard once, I'm not sure where it came from, but that's something like 93 to 95% of the world thinks from a predominantly negative perspective. And I think that's what's created so much of the strife and so much of the pain and suffering in life, is that when that gets its way into culture, or it gets its way into a society, or it creates a tremendous amount of pain and suffering. And we're seeing that with the levels of anxiety, depression, bullying, addiction, suicide. They're all at record levels, and I truly believe the next evolution in humankind is going to be an evolution of mind to a greater understanding of who we are.
Well, you know what? I hope you're right, but I want to talk about that briefly because you brought it up. I mean, you're absolutely right in all those things. I mean, the bullying and the suicide and depression. I suffered from depression myself. I mean, there's so much of that going on, but at the same time, I feel like we've never had a point in our lives where we've been so close to positive energy as well, bits of enlightenment. Yep. I mean, there's so many, I talk about it all the time in the show here, but I mean, words like collaboration and vision and, and manifesting and sharing and all. I mean, these things are everywhere. And I mean, I can't get on Instagram without seeing an inspirational quote or a video that's supposed to inspire me. So it's like you've got these two dueling realities. Are we kind of reaching a critical mass in either camp? Or are we just kind of floating in limbo between this world, waiting for something to grab us and pull us to one way or the other?
I think both. I think that as we're heightening up and ratcheting up on the negative side with division and chaos. At the same time, on the other side, the spiritual or the more enlightened view of life from a standpoint of connection and unity, and the way that the universe is working to help us, and how an understanding of our connected nature as human beings is really what's going to help humankind survive. That is also ratcheting itself up. And I believe that one has an eternal and powerful nature to it that's going to outlast the other, because the other is draining and tiring, and it causes destruction and corruption and corrosiveness.
Right.
So I think it's just a matter of the faith in staying on, the saying, which I love, the lower somebody else goes, the higher you should go. They go low, we go high. And I believe that the faith to stay on the higher ground from a standpoint of seeing the possible, seeing the good, and having faith in that ultimately is the way to go. But yes, I clearly see that we're raising that up, and it's social media is bringing it more to us every day, which is really great because it's helping.
Now, I want
and the other side's fighting for its life. The negative side, whatever's alive tends to fight for its life, negative or positive. But dinosaurs, I'm sure, fought for their life too before they went extinct.
Right.
So ultimately, I believe that in order to get to the next level of our existence and to survive as a species, I believe that a more enlightened look at who we are is the path.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. I want to shift gears here a little bit because you have written 2 fantastic books, and I've talked to people about your books. I've heard a lot about your books. I have not read both of your books because I'm the slowest reader on the planet. But I've got the next best thing. I'm sitting here talking to you. But I'm going to shift gears and just talk about that from a business standpoint and an achievement standpoint for a minute, because I want people. Sure. I'm a small business owner, and I want to be able to give people tidbits here. Everybody. And maybe not everybody, but a lot of people at some point say, I should write a book. I should write a book. Damn it, you actually wrote a book, and not just one, but you wrote 2. And not only did you do that, and obviously you must have set out, you had a goal to get that done, but then you actually did something with it. You are helping people. You have taken action on top of that. How the hell did you bridge the gap from, okay, this is my vision, or this is something I want to do, to like, okay, I actually did it. I made this happen. How did you do that?
So that's another fantastic question. I just want to point out the idea, just to point this out for educational purposes, how the hell did you do that has some sort of resistance in the thought, right? That it's hard to go from there to there. And if that's a belief, that's going to be lived out. And I'm not saying it's hard or easy. It took a tremendous amount of intention and time dedication. But once you have the intention, time doesn't exist in the process.
Woo.
It's not.
Dude. That was good. You got me. Can I buy 2 books? I want to buy 2 copies of I Am.
Go for it. Please share with other people. The more people that can get this, the better.
So when the intention is there, time does not exist.
That's correct. And that's the premise of the whole second book, is to demonstrate the elasticity of that idea through intention. So, in dealing with people at a very high level, whether in business or some of the top athletes in the world that I've worked with, if you got to peek behind the curtain and you saw what these people do on a daily basis, it's just the amount of intensity and focus and intention on honing that craft into the relentless nature of it. But that's driven by the belief in this is who I am. It's driven by that identity. So that's why we go back to identity. The more you can see you are capable of doing this. Now you're only capable of writing 1 book. You could write 10 books. You've got a lot to say. The more you believe that, and allow your fingers to start typing and get a manuscript done, and then allow your fingers to go on the internet, find an editor, and allow your fingers to write query letters to agents and to publishers, and to keep going no matter what, you can manifest it too. But the original intent has to be there. The example I give is, was it hard for Michael Phelps to get up at 3:30 in the morning and swim 50 laps in the pool when everybody else was sleeping for 10 straight years? Could I do that? No, that's hard to me. That is hard, man. How can you do that? I couldn't make one lap. But his intention to be the best in the world at his craft, he got up, he did it. I'm not saying it wasn't hard or easy, but he did it because he was connected to that belief in who he was.
And you wonder, I mean, did he say, I want to be the best in the world, or did he say, I am the best in the world?
I'll let you answer that. I think you know what I'm going to say.
Right? I think we know the answer to that. You know, I mean, that's incredible because, I mean, you know, we're starting to make a case here for why it might be important to start asking some of these questions. And maybe if you are fulfilled in your life and you feel like you're just fine with the status quo and with the way things are, I don't think there's anything wrong at all with that. But sometimes maybe you do want to look up and see what's going on above you with the stars. But one thing that I wonder, and I wonder if other people are going to think it too, for you and the Michael Phelps and all these other people out there that have this solid grasp of, okay, I am this, and my intention is this, and therefore I am going to be capable of spending hours and hours in the pool and doing all of this work and taking action. But some people might say, well, damn it, maybe these people aren't normal. Like, are you normal? Are you like the rest of us? Or are you just different? You know, do you have something that I don't have? What kind of jeans are you wearing right now? Like, you know what I mean? What's the deal?
There's no difference between you and I. The only difference between you and I is the one that you believe in your head. That's it. There's no difference. You're just as worthy as any other human being on this planet to accomplish anything that anybody else has done. Now, is there a path to do that? If you want to go climb a hill, it's going to take a certain amount of energy to do that. You want to go climb Kilimanjaro, that's going to take more preparation, more time, more faith, more work. So you just have to be aware of what the path is to get there and be willing to go through the process. But the opportunity to do it and accomplish it is just as much yours as it is anybody on this planet. And when you see that, less will stop you on the way to doing it. So no, there isn't anything special. There is a revelation that happens. Again, the reason that I believe that certain people or most people or some people don't have this passion or this idea or knowing of what they want to do is because maybe they haven't yet woken to the full potential of who they are. Because when you don't see a barrier to any possibility, your true idea of what you want to be can come out that might be held down because you thought you couldn't do it, so you never let it surface in your mind. But once you see your worth, then you're like, what? Then your true feelings of what you want to do and what you come flooding in, and your soul just opens to who it really is. I have goosebumps right now. And
me too. That's so cool.
Yeah, so that's why the path of self-awareness is so priceless, because when you free yourself, then you're like, you know what? I when I was little, I wanted to paint, and I thought, you can't make money in painting, or you can't live, or my mom and dad didn't really want me to do that. But that's what always been my passion. I'm going to start doing that. Next thing you know, you're painting every day and you're selling paintings. Just to take one example. Or you wanted to mentor kids, but you never thought, whatever. And now you believe in yourself, and you've been through enough in your life where you feel you've got a lot to say, and now you feel confident in going and doing that because you feel good about yourself, where before you didn't. So that's the key for me to the door.
Wow. I mean, there's so many takeaways right there. But I mean, I love this idea of like, you are worthy, right? You're worthy of the time to. And not only just invest in yourself, but to be whatever it is that you can be, And I think that sometimes we just kind of need to forgive ourselves, for maybe not, having the car that we think we were supposed to have, or all that other stuff, and just meaningless stuff, and open the door to that true potential that's there, that artist, that whatever that's there. And man, is there an incredible opportunity for fulfillment. And go ahead, please.
I'm sorry. I just want to add one thing. When this hit me, this awareness, and I realized the power in this, and how sacred this was, and how much all I wanted to do was share it. Now, I'd never publicly spoken before, other than, to business groups or in my former work or in college. I never wrote before, other than business, English papers in college and business letters. But that didn't stop me. I had to get myself into an uncomfortable space in order to learn until it wasn't uncomfortable anymore. I had to speak to a group of 40 people my first time speaking. I freaked out beforehand. I thought, how am I going to do this? I didn't sleep for 3 days when I knew I was going to have this speech. But I walked into that room as nervous as I was, and I gave a great speech. And ever since that moment, not that I don't have adrenaline and stuff that runs before you perform or you do anything, whether you're an athlete or an individual, but there was no more fear in doing it. So I had to walk through, just like every athlete did, just like every executive did, every time they went up to another level, just like every writer did and I had to walk through it to become it. So there is a path to getting there, but once you know what you want to do, at least that frees you to go into the process.
Well, and I'm sure, you cover so much of the tips of that path in your books, I Am, and Time in a Bottle. I did a speaking engagement the other day. I also do some speaking as well. And, the first thing I said to this crowd, which was maybe about 40 people, like you say, or 30 people. And the first thing I told them is that, you know what? I didn't do a lot of preparation for this speaking engagement. I told them why, because you guys invited me here to tell my story. And I don't need to prepare myself to be myself. I'm going to go up here, stand here as I am, and give you pure authenticity. And I think that
Beautiful.
If we can go ahead and just do the same thing in life, just walk the streets as we are.
Wow.
There might be so much. Then there's no need for preparation or for unnecessary nervous energy. You don't need to prepare to be you. You're already there. You made it.
Right. Free from fear, I would say. We can just walk down the street free from fear and just be ourselves. More of who we really are would come out. Yeah, that's absolutely true. I think that that's a really important point.
Now, as
really
as Oprah Winfrey says, let's lean into this energy here for a second, because and we've touched on it a little bit, but we've got you want to write a book, you want to achieve something, you want to go ahead and with incredible intention give yourself the ability to work and take action and do all these things, and this is how the great Howard Falco wrote 2 books that are incredible. But what about in our personal lives? Okay, what about within our relationships between the people that we love? Sometimes, and I don't know if this is the same for you, but sometimes I find that when it comes to people that I love and I care about, I'm not always as truthful as I'd like to be. Most of the time out of protecting that person. Sometimes we don't really show them our true colors. And the biggest way that I do that is I don't want to share my hurt with people all the time. And that's the one way that I might not always be authentic. I'm authentic walking the streets, but behind closed doors with people that I love, I don't want to put that hurt, that pain on them. Do we need, in the search for being not only who we really are, but what we really are, do we need to carry our vulnerability, our pain on our sleeves as well? And does that mean we need to share it with everybody? Or can we stay a bit guarded?
It's an interesting question because it depends on the situation and what your intention is. If your intention is to no longer have the mask on when you're around the people that you love, then I think to have the faith to be vulnerable and to trust that the love that they have for you will keep them from judging you, but actually help you in that situation because they finally know what you're carrying and what you're dealing with, then that might help you transcend that pain. But you have to be willing to be vulnerable enough to trust that even with your vulnerabilities in front of them, they're still going to love you. And possibly 99% chance they'll love you even more for being vulnerable. It's interesting. I had my 24-year wedding anniversary yesterday, and I was writing something. Thank you. I was writing something to post, and I always like to use it as sort of an offering moment of how it's been for 24 years and how you get through the ups and downs. And one of the things I was writing about, which will be up later, is this idea that I realized when we were young and dating or just about to get married, the more vulnerable that I got with my significant other, the more she loved me because it freed her from any worry about her vulnerability with me. And she was able then to share more of her vulnerability, and it brought us closer because she was no longer insecure about that. And then we were able to discuss it. And eradicate a lot of that concern with each other anyways. Now we knew, hey, I've bared my soul with you. You've bared your soul with me. I love you no matter what. You love me no matter what. And it brought us closer. We never had to worry about it again.
Wow.
So I think, so vulnerability can be a really positive thing if your intention is to not carry that mask anymore and think you're protecting them, but you might be really protecting yourself in some way.
Right, and I know they say that it's important to show vulnerability if you truly want to be an effective leader, but I think it's fascinating in our personal lives. Maybe some people are afraid to show that vulnerability and that hurt and that pain because maybe they think they'll be judged and it might make that person repel the person that they love. But you're saying, really, people, let's be brave. And
100%.
Because it might actually be the opposite.
Right. How long can you carry on the facade in front of somebody? And you're never allowed to be your authentic self with somebody because you're afraid. That to me is a very difficult way to go through life, a very draining way because you're always worried, always in fear, lack of faith. But to say, hey, this is who I am. This is what I'm concerned about. This is what I was afraid about. I wanted to share it with you. Again, it not only relieve you, but I guarantee you they've got some insecurities and vulnerabilities that they haven't shared that they're going to be like, oh, thank God you told me that because this is what I'm concerned about. And they're like, oh, that never bothered me. And she says, this never bothered me either about you and or he or whoever it is in your life. And you can work to get over it and get closer and elevate. Wow. Next level mind.
Next level stuff, baby. You know what? I want to ask you a question because I'm sure maybe some people might be interested in this. You obviously, I mean, you must be, just an incredible, ravenous reader. And I'm sure that's one way that you take in information and enlightenment. But do you have any other vehicles for self-exploration? For instance, I mean, I know some people use all this technology now. They're using Instagram. They're using Pinterest to help them explore who they are and what they like and what they're into to, in essence, form an identity. What are some of those vehicles that you could give people to help? How does someone start? If I'm like, okay, you know what, I might have some questions and I want to dip into who I am and what I'm into and I want to form an identity and I want to be more my own person. What's the Howard Falco, top 3 kind of starter list for what you should do to kind of get things going? I was hoping you were going to do that. I set you up.
You teed that one up for me. I'm sorry, but that is I've just seen
do
it.
Do
so
it.
Many lives. But okay, so this is one fantastic way. However, there's a lot of great work out there. So whatever you find that you resonate with, that helps you discover more of who you are, that helps reveal more of the truth of who you are. And the litmus test is when it comes from a loving place of perfection and worth. Yes, that's good stuff. Read it. But the path to that, how people can do that, what's cool is you're doing it right now, right? You're listening to this podcast. It's coming into your ears right now. You had to connect with it somehow, click on a link or listen. You were drawn to it. You had the courage and you dedicated the time and you were focused. So this is a way right here. The universe is working with you. Again, not because it's me, but just because it's information. So keep on the lookout for stuff that resonates with you because you're going to discover more of who you are through that process. So that's one. For me, what I do, and it's interesting, you said a ravenous reader. I read, if something comes out that I'm interested, I'm more curious to see what's being disseminated in the world. So I'll read it to kind of get an idea of what's being put out there. I stay connected to social media. So I'm in tap of what the pulse is in pop culture because for relevancy and connection, I want to make sure I'm on that pulse. But the way it can come from reading, it can come from a podcast like this, or it can come from simple contemplation, asking questions and being open to what comes back into your mind after you ask that question that may be very counter to what you've believed, and being open to just say, I've believed that. Let's take the big one that the most subjective word in the world,
Let's
okay? You know what the most subjective word in the world is?
I have no idea.
God.
Ooh.
Because everybody has a different interpretation of what that means. And my just to jump into this, might as well jump right in.
No, go, do it.
What I growing up, I always kept that idea open. I didn't confine it to an idea or a man with a white beard in the sky or whatever, an angry God. I just kept it open to explore that. And as I've gone through my life, that definition kept expanding and expanding and expanding and expanding and expanding to where it's undefinable to me, meaning that there isn't anything that it doesn't flow through, in, or out of.
Wow.
In life. And so, but the way that happened, and that worked for me, that felt right, that resonated in my soul, and it's been a beautiful, it's helped in the expression of how I see love and life and teach and help people and write. And so it was important for me to keep at least an open mind, and it challenged some of the things I learned when I was little, but I went with what felt right, what resonated as truth, versus what I was told in my left brain, this is what you have to believe.
Right. Howard, I mean, can we do the same thing with ourselves? I mean, is this search for who we really are, is it similar to what you just described here with this relationship you had with capital G-O-D, in that this was an ever-expanding definition? It was not something where, okay, I need to define it as such, white-bearded man up in the sky, boom, I have that, case closed, close it. No, it's a journey that you're going through as you experience your relationship with this. Is this how we can treat ourselves, or maybe not so?
No, I believe you're 100% accurate in that. Yes, for the things that, when you ask, what do I want to change? Oh, I can't sleep at night because I'm so worried about my relationship with my son or my daughter, okay? And you have an idea of what that relationship should be, and you've refused to acknowledge the way the relationship is, and the other person and their feelings, maybe just to let go of some of your beliefs and what it is, and to create a space of understanding might shift the dynamics of the energy of that relationship. It's hard to take suppositions when we're trying to do this. We need some real authentic, tangible stuff. But the idea is, yes, as we do I have to hold on to this idea that they need to talk to me first? Or if I want the healing, can I let that idea go just for a minute to create it? And then maybe through that change, I gain the respect I was looking for, and that never happens again because I've reached out the olive branch and respected them.
Let me ask you a question. Do you meditate?
So when I am feeling maybe just a little off, I will sit in silence and allow my body to regain its center and balance through just allowing my mind to calm down, the thoughts to calm down, and get back to that state of connection with everything, which re-energizes me and provides me with more clarity and more balance. And whether that's for 5 minutes or whether it's for an hour. But occasionally I do that. Most of the time, it's sort of a walking state of meditation where the awareness has set in and it's just there. But there are times when, yes, I do meditate.
Well, I mean, and I love that because, I mean, I always differentiate between stillness and meditation. That's just my world. But what would you say to somebody that says, well, I can't meditate? I can't meditate. Is this true? Okay. Can this person not meditate?
Well, can't is a word that red flags for me because I don't believe in the word can't. But there isn't the intention to, because there's no desire to stop thought, because when they stop thought, they have to reflect, and reflection has caused pain in the past. So a good teacher will help them cultivate that space faithfully and help them understand that reflection is going to liberate them. Once they connect that, then that individual will be able to quiet their mind down. Because people keep busy in their mind when they don't want to face the reflection of what stillness or quietness brings them. And that's okay. That's the way they've survived. So it takes a good teacher to help be conducive to them entering that space and trusting that the reflection will actually re-energize them and bring them to a state of peace, and there's nothing to fear there. So that's what I would say. But they can meditate. It's just they intend not to yet.
No, I mean, and you're talking about, and I swear I feel like I could ask you questions all day long and just vibe with you. But I mean, you're talking about the importance of a good teacher, and I talked about this in my last podcast with Mayor Dan DiMaria, the importance of having examples of what to do and maybe the path. But you really didn't have any set examples that kind of brought you to where you are now, which is so fascinating. And now you're out here, and you're the spiritual teacher. You're working with all types of people, helping these people, guiding them on this path. But you really didn't have that person for you. You just kind of, fumbled towards ecstasy here.
I like that. Fumble. That's a great term. Fumbled towards ecstasy. I like that. But that's so exciting for everybody else. It means you don't have to necessarily have a teacher, although a teacher helps. I mean, all my life I had teachers. I did read a Norman Vincent Peale book when I was in my 20s. I did read some stuff. I even read Ageless Body, Timeless Mind, one of Deepak Chopra's early books. I understood about 5% of it in my 20s. But so there was some groundwork that seeded the ground for this opening, along with the intention and desire. But everybody's path is different, and what it takes to nurture and grease the wheel towards that openness and that state of being open to receive. So again, this is one of those moments that is going to grease the wheel in some way. For some people in a big way, like, wow, I'm going to be different after this and I'm going to think differently. To other people who, okay, I'll take this on a small basis of what I'm going to do in my life. But in some way, things are going to change.
I'm so curious to know, personally, so forget about all you listeners right now. I'm concerned with myself here. Where are you right now on your spiritual path? Because, you're helping other people, you're doing other things, but you're not done. It's not like, okay, Howard Falco has reached the finish line. He went through, yay, he took his picture, he got his ribbon, and now he's sitting there eating a banana and drinking Gatorade. Where are you right now on your own journey?
Where I'm at is based on my creative intentions. My creative intentions is to expand the platform to be able to share this with more people who might be in the world looking for information like this. So I'm working very hard to expand the ability for people to receive this information. Also, the cool thing about the universe is the only constant in the universe is change. So things are always changing. That means we always need to be learning and adapting. So I am open to receiving more insight and awareness and enlightenment. I will never say I know it all. I have eaten one of the biggest feasts I ever possibly thought I could eat at the table of awareness, which has satiated me for a long time. But that does not mean I'm not open to learning more. So we're each on our own path based on our own creative desires. And I'm still open to learning and understanding I'm in a creative mode right now, I'm in a doing mode rather than in a being mode. But there'll be a time when I'm sure have more questions and seek more insight. But right now, I'm about taking what I found and sharing this treasure, with the world. That's my goal right now, is to continue to share this treasure. So it's not stopping for me. And that's also one other interesting thing. When this happened to me, there was a brief moment where I thought, what's there left to do? Okay, should I shave my head, put a robe on, and go sit on a mountain? I actually thought of checking out of everything. And then I thought, wait a minute. I love life. I'm passionate about life. I love my family. I don't want to disavow those things. I love the creativity of life. I love sports. I love, there's things that I enjoy doing. There's no reason to give up on any of that stuff. Why not take this and insert myself right back into the process with all this and meet society and humanity where it is with it.
Absolutely. And expand and grow and add to that definition rather than limit it. Howard, thank you so much. You've done incredible things, and I'm so happy that you're out there sharing your truth and your creativity and your passion with others. How can people get more of Howard Falco?
Well, first of all, thank you, Chris, and thanks for everything that you're doing out there to share this wisdom and to share your insight and your wisdom with other people. I know you've helped so many in your life, and there are millions more you're going to help on your journey. I can feel it. You're an awesome soul. So thank you. If people want more information on me, they can go to my website, which is howardfalco.com. I'm also on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And then there's two other places for athletes. You can go to totalmindsports.com. And then I've started a foundation to help share this awareness, which is 8wisdom.org. And of course, the books are on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and at any bookstore. So, and I do private session work. If anybody's interested in doing a private one-on-one, they're welcome to contact me for that.
Howard Falco, thank you so much. Incredible human being, as you guys can tell, author of I Am and Time in a Bottle. Thank you so much for joining me here on The Rebel Mindset.
Minor, Chris. Thank you.
Okay, hopefully I'll have you back. You know what, guys? Everyone's got something they want to do with their life. And as I've said before, it does require vision, and it does require intention, and as Howard says, action. There needs to be that point where intention meets action. But at the same time, if you want to really give your vision and whatever it is that you want to do with your life purpose, if you really want to elevate it, then you have to figure out how it's going to help others. You have to share. And it's obvious that Howard is doing that with his time, with his vision, with his purpose. But you can't make that happen without a fair amount of relating and connecting with who you are, doing that work, spending the time. If you do have questions, to go out there and be an open book. Be an open book and be prepared, ready and willing to take in those answers and be prepared to answer some more questions. We're going to be back here at the pod here at Media Podz. Go to mediapodz.com to talk to Byron Udell, CEO and creator of AccuQuote, to talk about why it is that we shouldn't settle and how it is that we can create our own opportunities in life. So in the meantime, all of you, rebel on.